What is going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. It's Pelfrey. This is my Red Sea Reefer 250. I'm going to go over a couple different things today. Before we start, check out Pat Murphy with Murphy's Reefing. He's got a ton of different videos, and I'm sure you're going to find something that you're going to like on his channel. Let's hop into some maintenance that I try to do on a pretty regular basis. One of the things that I try to do is take a coral feeder and stir up the sand. I do have some dead spots in the tank, and I do believe that whenever I added the Miracle Mud to the tank, you get that silt or whatever with the Miracle Mud. That did settle out into the sand, so I'm just trying to just get the sand bed a little clean. And in order to do that, I also bubble scrub. What is bubble scrubbing? Bubble scrubbing is taking an air stone and an air pump and pumping tiny bubbles into a tank. So in my situation, I'm using a Lee's wooden air stone, a small air pump, and I would call what I'm doing is pretty aggressive, and you can see that there are some big bubbles in there. But what the bubble scrubbing does is it lifts anything, particulates or whatever in the water column, up into the overflow and then down into the sump. So I don't do it on a schedule. I just do it whenever I'm cleaning the tank out, no big deal. Just plug in the air pump and then do the rest of my maintenance. I very rarely ever run mechanical filtration. However, whenever I'm doing the bubble scrubbing or cleaning the sand, I try to put some foam pads into the filter sock replacement cups, and I do turn the skimmer off, of course, because the putting the pads into the salt water is going to make the skimmer overflow. And you can see that they're clogged up pretty quickly. It did not take any time for them to clog up. No big deal. Pull them out, throw them away, be done with them. I do also run some Sun wave makers in my sump in two different locations. One of them is going to get pulled out because I got another project I'm about to do. Now, one of the other maintenance items that I try to do at least every couple of months, or especially whenever the pumps turn purple from Coralline algae, because my tank grows coralline like crazy, is just pull the pump out and throw it in a bucket of warm water and vinegar. And you can see the coralline was in the orange bucket and how clean it is. And I've only taken these pumps apart, each one time. So typically I just take them off the tank, drop them in the water and vinegar, let them run for about an hour or so, scrub them with the brush, drop them back in the tank. Sand has been turned over, the gyres have been cleaned up, the glass has been cleaned on both the exterior and interior, which I used the flipper to clean the inside of the glass, and I just used the scraper side. I don't use the brush side. So you can see how clean the tank is. Now I know that the first part of this video I was doing the bubble scrubbing, so you really couldn't see how dirty the tank was, but the sand was pretty bad. The overflow had algae on it, so a scrape of that and got rid of all of it. Now, one of the other things to keep in mind is the gyre pumps. After they've been cleaned, they are a little bit more powerful. I won't say a little bit more powerful, but as they get dirty, they tend to lose some of the power, which is not that big of a deal in my eyes anyway. Over the past week, I totally failed to send in the ICP test. I put it in a cabinet. I got really busy with the family things and work and everything, so I pulled it out of the cabinet. I'm going to do my absolute best to get it sent out this week so that I can try to figure out what's going on. And I do appreciate all of the comments on the last video. There are a ton of comments, and every one of them is helpful. Basically, a lot of people have their ups and downs, and I appreciate everybody sharing your thoughts or what you've experienced with me. Like I said, I still don't know what the problem was, but as far as all the LPS and soft corals and the recordias or whatever, they're thriving. It's absolutely stunning and crazy to me, but I do understand and do know that SPS corals are a lot more picky than LPS corals. There were a lot of other comments stating of things that I should do, and I'm going to preface this by saying that no two tanks are the same, and there's always more than one way to accomplish the end result. What is the end result? Keeping a tank healthy. That's what my end result is overall. So just keep that in mind, folks. That is what is working for you may not work for me. Sometimes I may come off as trying to teach things, but all I'm trying to do is share things that I'm doing in hopes that you can maybe take my idea and make it better. And I think it's important to bring up that a lot of these corals that are in this tank have been with me since my very first reef tank. The Recordias I got with my very first reef tank. The toadstool I got with my very first reef tank. The Scully came with it. One of the hammers came with it. So a lot of these corals have been through a lot, and I feel really bad for them, but it says something that I've actually done well for the last, I guess, 3 years or so in order to keep those corals alive. And we're at my favorite season of the year, spring going into summer, which means that we have natural sunlight coming into the tank. This is a little fathead dendro sun coral. I actually don't feed it or anything, so it's crazy to me that this thing looks the way that it does. But it's very, very awesome to look at some of these corals with the direct sunlight. So I hope that you enjoy them just as much as I do. The Recordia with some natural sunlight. Like I said, this thing has exploded. Maybe it'll turn into a little bounce mushroom, you never know. We got the hammers in the background with the coralline rocks, and the coralline in my tank has gone absolutely wild. I picked up some Brightwell Coral Amino. I do dose Acro Power, but I was talking to Pat Murphy with Murphy's Reefing, and he said he's used this product. So I said, you know what, I'll give it a try. So the only thing that I do not like about the product is the fact that it does have like a dropper built into it. I really do wish that it had, you know, milliliters measured out on that dropper so that it was already there and you wouldn't have to measure it yourself. So maybe if Brightwell's listening, they can add that to the little dropper. I think that would be very nice. Now, the directions do say to turn off your skimmer. So I've only dosed this once so far. Since I don't have a ton of coral in the tank anymore, I decided I would just go really slow with this stuff. You know, it is something that it's going to take manual dosing. Obviously it's a small container and the dosage is so small, there is no point in trying to even automate that process whatsoever. Speaking of automation, went ahead and picked up a new piece of hardware. If you've stuck around this long, then you will catch that piece of hardware at the end of this video. But I did go ahead and do a 5-gallon water change again this weekend. I did a 5-gallon water change last weekend. And for the time being, I'm probably going to stick to some regular 5-gallon water changes. And I know that 5 gallons isn't really substantial whenever you're thinking about 65 gallons of total water volume, but it is better than nothing. Take a look at that Coralline algae right there, and it's growing on all corners of the tank, and it's pretty hard to scrape, especially whenever you take the flipper over there. The Santa Monica Rain 2 is actually growing Coralline algae inside of it. I did harvest the screen. I didn't show you guys that, but it is growing great. So I need to check my phosphates and nitrates and potentially maybe even dose phosphates and nitrates again. It's been about 2 weeks probably since I've dosed either of them. And I've kind of slacked off on the testing. Just once again with the ICP testing, I got real busy and I haven't had a time to really test the tank. And it's no fault but my own. However, I have stayed on top of the salinity, and I did make sure that I calibrated my refractometer before I did my water change today. There's a couple different places that I'd like to pick up coral from. One of them being battle corals. I don't know if anybody has ever picked up a battle box, but they're pretty active on, Adam with battle corals is pretty active on Reef to Reef. And, you know, basically you say, hey, I want to spend, you know, $300 and give me these pieces, except I don't want, you know, green or whatever. So that's one of them. And Bud Man's Corals, I think it's Bud's Man's Corals. I'm not really sure. He's on Instagram, but he's got a pretty good selection of corals that I'd like to look at. I may look at the Tidal Gardens live sale that's coming up and try to get some softies, maybe some more hammers, euphyllias or something, just to satisfy my coral needs for a while until I can get back into the SPS game. For those of you that are new here, I do have a website, pelfrey.net. You can go over there. I have my gyre settings on there. I have some YouTube videos on there. I have an Amazon store on my website, and I have some memes. So you probably recognize some of the memes. I need to update that and move forward with it. I'm also on Instagram at Pelfrey's Reef, and a couple different pages that I really enjoy on Instagram. Drew's Lagoon is one of the pages that I really enjoy. He's got a 25 lagoon and it looks absolutely amazing. And for those of you with Red Sea Reefers, slide on over to Oceans by Design. They actually have plug and play Red Sea Reefer sumps, and the Red Sea Reefer 250 sump has really intrigued me. It's about the same water volume, it's the exact same dimensions. You can use the plumbing, you don't have to change any of that. It's very awesome that a company has actually come out with plug and play Red Sea Reefer sumps. Now, if I was to replace my sump, I would actually like to get a bigger sump to add more water volume to my system. But check them out, very nice sumps. And folks, that's going to be it for this update. As always, I do appreciate you following along with me on my journey, on the ups and downs of the Red Sea Reefer. Like, comment, and subscribe.